Get connected with Take Two Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio. For email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit Take2Radio.com.
Thank you for tuning into the Malliard Report. Before the fastest hour in Paranormal Talk Radio begins, go over to italkparanormal.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter.
The opinions expressed on the Malliard Report are those of the host and participants and are not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any simulcasting radio network or sponsor. All listeners are advised to make their own decisions.
It's the Malliard Report, yeah, the Malliard Report, the Paranormal Talk Radio Show with Jim Malliard as your host. See what lies beneath any paranormal activity. Go inside a world that others don't want to see. It's the Malliard Report, yeah, the Malliard Report.
Welcome to the Malliard Report. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. I like that theme song. I was in a big conversation the other day, Kevin, about how long an intro should be for a show. And the consensus was you've got to keep it short and to the point and then start talking, and then you can play a longer bit, like a advanced intro after you talk for a few seconds. And I like my intro. I do my disclaimer. I do my pitch for the newsletter at italkparanormal.com. Over 75 people have signed up for that. I'm baffled by that, but it's growing every day. And then my disclaimer, of course, when you do this radio business, you've got to take care of the legalese. Throw the music on there and let's go. How are you doing tonight, Kevin?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you, Jim. And by the way, that theme song is terribly addictive.
Well,
it drives me crazy. It stays in my head for hours.
It's on YouTube if you want to loop it. I put it up. It plays twice, so you can listen to it back to back. And of course, somebody has requested a longer loop of the same. I don't know if I can do that because I listen to it. I enjoy it, but I hear it more than probably anybody else too. So, but I still enjoy it. That's the thing. So, I guess
I'm going to make that my alarm clock ringtone. I'm going to wake up every morning to that.
There you go. I guess I should finish my introduction of you. My guest tonight is Kevin Harold of Paranormal Tech TV on Twitter. Kind of antisocial. We haven't got him on Facebook. Well, you do have a Facebook page, don't you?
Yeah, kind of.
Not so antisocial anymore, but we're working on you. Tell people.
You know me. I go ahead.
I was gonna say, tell people about Paranormal Tech that don't have as much insight as I do. What's the premise? Where are we at?
Yeah, so Paranormal Tech is a new paranormal, I guess, documentary reality TV show, and I know probably a lot of people out there going, oh, God, not another, paranormal TV show, but the truth of the matter is we're really trying to do something different with our show. So the premise of our show is this. We have paranormal investigators and skeptics who are combining to make a brand new team, and we go out and we investigate claims of paranormal activity, everything from ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, all of it. And we really take a heavy science and technology approach. Now, on the show, I am one of the two skeptics. My partner, Bing, and I are the skeptics. And about a month ago, we launched our pilot episode on Blip TV. And the feedback has been fantastic. I mean, much better than we had ever hoped for. And so on the show, if you watch the show, you'll see that, Bing and I take the more skeptical approach. And I think what is really important to understand about Bing and I is that although we're skeptics, we actually believe that all this stuff is possible. And I think that's an important point to make, is that we believe it's possible, but without hard scientific facts to back it up, we remain skeptical. Now, when the show aired a month ago, our partners in crime, so to speak, were the Southern California Paranormal Detectives. And if you watched the first episode, you saw them. And over the last month, we've had a lot of stuff happen. And I know, Jim, you probably want to cover some of that stuff tonight.
I want to cover all of it, but we'll get there.
But yeah, so the premise of the show is that we're trying to keep it 100% real. We don't fake any evidence. We don't do any of that. And we're really trying to get to the science and the technology behind the paranormal. In other words, we want to look at the newest technology, emerging technology, and we want to try to figure out what's going on because we really believe something is happening. We just don't really know what yet.
Well, we'll get it figured out. I think people should know at this point that I talk to you probably, at least once a week about either your show or my show or some combination of both. So we're at that same point where we were talking about marketing and how to package and how to brand and all this fancy stuff that is kind of weird. But we're working on it. So where's the next show at? I guess we'll start there. We'll start with the positive end of things. Where's the next show at? And were you filming? Is that what I remember?
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, we began pre-production on episode number 2, and during that pre-production process, we kind of came to heads with our partners, Paranormal Detectives, SCPD, over some creative differences. And we were afraid that might happen because what we're trying to do is, I don't want to over-dramatize it, but it is groundbreaking. This show isn't going to be for everybody. And their vision of what they wanted the show to be was much different than what Bing and I wanted the show to be. And so let me back up just for a second. Bing and I are the executive producers. We own a company called Raptor Films, and we produce television content. And this is one of the shows that was one of our babies. This is something we've been wanting to do for almost 2 years now. And we had a very specific vision for the show. And it's much different than anything that's on TV now, or at least that's our vision for it. So we knew that whoever partnered with us on the paranormal side was going to have a stiff upper lip, that it wasn't going to be an easy road, because never before have skeptics and believers come together and battle out their beliefs and battle out over the evidence and battle out, these issues that are floating around in the paranormal community. And we knew it was going to be hard. And so anyway, long story short, the creative differences came to a head, and they decided to step away. Now, during that separation, one of the SCPD members, Jeff Lloyd, who's on the show, he made a very courageous decision to step away from SCPD and remain with us and continue to do the show because he really believes in it. We never asked him to do that. That was a decision he made on his own, and we're grateful for it. So that all happened right as we're getting ready to film episode number 2. So that delayed us. Then, out of the blue, we get a meeting with a person who shall remain unnamed at this point, but I can't divulge it to anybody else. But he's a producer, a television producer. And he's got 2 shows out right now. One of them is a paranormal show that probably your listeners watch every week.
I doubt my listeners do, but they may be familiar with it.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll put it to you that way. You're probably very familiar with the show.
Yeah, they probably know it.
Anyway,
I know my listener base. They're not necessarily TV people. I've got numbers to back that up. So.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. So anyway, he's agreed to come on board. He loves our show, loves the premise, and with his decades of TV experience, he's going to come in and he's going to make our show that much better. And so right now, we're not going to divulge who he is because we're going to let him come in, get comfortable with everybody, and start developing this new look and new feel for the show. The premise is the same, but we're going to tighten things up, make it that much better and more entertaining. So then we got a new executive producer, and then on top of that, we have a brand new cast member. Her name is Sandra D. Robinson, and she's a very well-known actress. And we didn't bring her on board because she's an actress and she happens to be very beautiful. We brought her on board because she's a very spiritual person. She's got a sort of a religious background. Interestingly enough, she has some potential of some psychic ability, and she's had a lot of experiences growing up and through her adult years with the paranormal. She's fascinated by the paranormal and wants to go on this journey with us to determine what is going on. So Jim,
wait.
Long story short.
Wait. Kevin, we were just talking about this. I've got big news for my paranormalheadlines.com final thought tonight. Which will, your news is big, but, for my listeners, my news is bigger.
Hey, all this news is big, and this is like an epic show because we get to tell the listeners all this new, cool stuff that's going on with both of us.
Yeah, I think we should also make a note that, sorry, I read the chat room, and that was a big mistake.
Hey, Ed, just so you know, I'm not even looking at the chat room because I know some of the people that are in that chat room, and if I try to focus on that, they're going to get the best of me.
I know. Anyway,
I'm trying to remain focused.
I'm trying to, too, so I'm going to study this clock for the next 50 minutes. Apparently I have to. Tell us more about Sandra. I mean, people may not know that name, but may know her from somewhere.
Yeah, so, Sandra's been in the business for an awful long time, and I don't want to date myself, but way back in the day, in the late 90s, I worked with her on a show called Renegade, and that starred Lorenzo Lamas. And if you remember that show, she was on that show as one of the co-stars. She's co-starred in CSI Miami, Criminal Minds, 2.5 Men. She's a daytime soap actress, and she's been in All My Children, General Hospital as a starring role in all that. She's done some feature film work as well. She was in The Longest Yard, I believe. I know I'm going to screw that up, but so she's a very well-known actress. So she's got a very long IMDb. So if you're bored one day, look it up.
I have, but I just wanted you to throw it out there so I didn't have to screw it up. So you could mix it up instead of me, so you get blamed for it. And the fun thing I like about it is she's from Pittsburgh, which is near and dear to my heart. I'm about an hour or so north of there. So, as you know, we've talked football before, and I'm not going to go there tonight, of course, but.
Yeah, like I said, Days of Our Lives, 2.5 Men, General Hospital, Criminal Minds, CSI Miami. On and on and on and on. So she's a great actress. And you know what? The thing that I love the most about her is she's just a terrific individual. She's a beautiful person inside and out. She's married to a very well-known Hollywood stuntman who's been in, every, action feature film you can name. And so we're really thrilled to have her on board. And again, to the sort of the skeptics out there, she's not coming on board because she's a pretty face. She's got a great story, and she's going to add a lot to this show, a whole new dimension.
Yes, I think so. And so before we get too much further, you're filming now, so when is the tentative date for release for the next one?
I have no idea. To be honest with you, I don't know because one of a couple things is going to happen. I'm just going to be straight up with you and the listeners. We can't survive forever on the internet. We're proud of our web series, but our goal has always been to try to get a network deal, and we have to make money. We have to survive, and I don't know whether our new executive producer is going to encourage us to continue to put episodes out on the web, or we're going to try to get a network deal. That hasn't been worked out yet, but our intention right now is to put out another episode on the web. But I honestly would hesitate to promise anything right now because we're just going to have to see how things fare it out. I mean, this is all still good news. It's just I don't know what's going to happen yet, Jim. So I would encourage everybody to, that follows us on Twitter to remain following us on Twitter, and we'll let you know just as soon as we know what we're going to do. We'll let you know right away.
That's right. That's how we roll around here, straight up. That's And for those who
was that a politically correct enough answer for you?
It was wonderful, Kevin. That's what we like.
Okay.
Kevin Harrell of Paranormal Tech TV is joining me on the Malliard Report here. So What brought you into wanting to do it? I mean, you said that this has been kicking around in your mind for 2 years. What was the first moment that said, hey, I want to do a show about that, but not like they do?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my childhood real quick. I grew up in San Diego, and the house that I grew up in was haunted. And I grew up in sort of the Brady Bunch household. My mom and dad were previously married. They both had kids from a previous marriage. They married, brought all their kids in, and then they had yours truly. And my half-brothers and sisters were all 13, 14, 15 years older than I was. And I grew up in a house that they all claimed was haunted. And I had a number of very strange experiences as a kid. And I was actually terrified in that house growing up. And when my father passed away in 1988, about a year after that, we moved out of the family home, my mom and I, and we moved in to a new place. And from that moment on, I never had another paranormal experience ever since then. And it's always been one of those things that, no pun intended, it's haunted me all these years. Was I really experiencing those things? Or was, all kids are afraid of the dark. All kids think there's a monster under the bed. And I've always wondered, was that real? Did I really experience that? Or was it just a psychological phenomenon I was dealing with as a kid? So fast forward all these years, and then we had this explosion in paranormal television. And coming from a television, film, and radio background, I understand television and film very well on the production side. And it was very obvious to me that a lot of this stuff is either being faked or being sensationalized for the viewer. And it always frustrated me when I watched these shows, seeing how things were being portrayed. And I thought, well, wait a minute, what if we did a show that was more realistic, that was more reality-based, and really try to see if we could find some answers to this stuff? Because, just on a deep personal level, we all wonder, is there life after death? Are we alone in the universe? We as human beings question these things naturally. And for me, I wanted to kind of go on this spiritual journey for myself to try to prove whether or not there's anything there. And so that's sort of the impetus for how this really began. Now, my partner Bing and I, about 4 years ago, started a production company, and our dream was to create content for television. And we've done a number of different projects that have nothing to do with paranormal whatsoever. And he and I one day just said, hey, what do you think about this? And then we just ran with it. And it took us about a year and a half to really plan it, get some of the right people into place, get all of the right crew members in place, and begin to do it. So for the last 2 years, I've been researching the paranormal pretty heavy. And by the way, I am not an expert in the paranormal. Okay, I've never claimed to be, and I don't claim to be now. I'm very well versed in audio and video technology, and because of that, and so is my partner Bing, and because the evidence is being portrayed to the viewer in the form of audio and video and photographic technology, we felt that we were really well positioned to have a voice in this and to be able to try to figure out what's really going on. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's kind of my journey to today.
That's okay.
And why I'm here.
That's fine. We like long-winded answers. We like short answers. We just like answers. And
so yeah, that's what got me involved.
So you kind of stumbled out unknowingly where I was going to take you next. And since the show had you talked about positive feedback, but I know there's been some anti-positive feedback there. I kind of phrased that in a nice way.
That was very nice and politically correct. Thank you.
I mean, you were an outsider a few months ago to the paranormal field. When we first started talking, you were still kind of putting the big toe in the water, so to speak. But now that you've been around for a couple months, what have you learned? I mean, coming in, you come from a interesting group of people, but I'm sure the paranormal has opened your eyes to a whole different set of things. So what is the paranormal field? What's the temperature of the paranormal field, I guess? What is it like for you coming in?
The learning curve has been steep, and it continues to be steep. First of all, I want to say this, and I don't want to sound like I'm kissing anybody's butt here, but I really do mean this. I have the greatest amount of respect for people in the paranormal field, the deepest respect. They come from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and this is really important to a lot of people. And there are some people that this is important to them to where they're almost militant about it. They really care about this a lot. And I respect that a great deal. It's interesting because what I've learned about this field is there are no standards whatsoever. Everybody's going in different directions. Some people are doing the same thing. Some people are doing others. There are trendsetters. There are followers. There are leaders. There are people that don't know what the heck they're doing, and there's everything in between. And so to me, one of the things that we're going to focus on in this show is trying to come up with some standards. And now I've heard this term, paranormal unity thrown around out there.
Don't swear on my show. Don't do it. You're not allowed to swear on my show. I don't have a beep button handy.
But all joking aside, Jim, I've heard this term being thrown around out there, and here's my thought, and I'll just put this out there. I don't think you can have unity until you have something to unify around, and I think you have to have some standards. I'm going to be very honest with you. The scientific community, I think, as a whole, looks at the paranormal community like a bunch of wackos and nuts. And I think that's an unfair assessment of the paranormal community. They get a bad rap, the paranormal community. But I will say that there's some truth to it. Now, let me just say this. Until the paranormal community has standards, and they're based in scientific methods, until people start really getting serious about this and start investigating on a common level, the paranormal community, I don't think, is going to garner the support that you need from the scientific community. You're not exclusive from one another. You should work in harmony. The cameras, the audio equipment, everything you use were developed by scientists and scientific principles. The door swings both ways. You can't use technology when it suits you and then ignore scientific facts when you don't like it. So what we're trying to do in our show is combine those elements. Can scientists, people advanced in technology, can paranormal investigators and psychics and whatever, can we all work together with common goals and common standards to try to find proof? Because what you see on YouTube is not proof. And that doesn't, the faking and all that stuff that goes on, that doesn't do the paranormal community any good. It doesn't help. We need facts. We need proof. And so what I've learned from this community coming in is that there are a lot of adorable, lovable, hardworking people that really believe in this stuff that are trying. And I respect that a lot. There's passion in this community, and I have the greatest admiration and respect for everybody in this community, and I'm becoming part of it. But it's a little too ragtag. It's a little too all over the place, and we need to kind of get to a point where everybody's doing something similar based in scientific facts, scientific principles, so that we can get answers. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Well, yes, it answers my question. Of course, I've been very polite and not jumped all over the... I want to come back to the unity thing. I mentioned this on my personal Twitter a couple weeks ago. Let's leave unity to the religions, people. They've been teaching it for thousands of years and still just haven't got it right. Let's leave that to them to perfect. I'll worry about standards over here. We'll meet in the middle. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I know that's kind of puts it right out there for people. Some people, that really frustrates some people. But I did a show a few months ago about standards. It cost me a number. I'm not going to put the number on it because I don't know it. Of listeners, I don't care. But anyways, So you were talking about different categories of people, and I agree there is a great number of passion. Of course, I wish we could guide that passion into something productive instead of running out and doing this thrill-seeking, as I call it. But I hope, maybe it's more hope than thinking, that people are starting to not necessarily accept, but acknowledge the fact that science is going to play a role in this, and we're starting to tilt the meter that way.
Yeah, I think it's really important because and I'm going to put this out there too. Scientists don't get a free pass on this either. There are wacky scientists out there too who are not open-minded and who have their own issues that they're dealing with, and the scientific community needs to be more open-minded. And they kind of come from this perspective of, if I can't reproduce it in a controlled environment, then it doesn't exist. There's a lot of scientists out there that are religious, and they can't admit they're religious because they'll be ostracized by the scientific community. And there are militant skeptics out there, militant, like devote their whole life to trying to tear down the paranormal and everything else. And there's these, one of my analogies is Democrats and Republicans. It's kind of what's going on in this field right now, is you have the left and you have the right, polar opposites of each other, and you have 1,000 shades of gray in the middle. And, I'll bring up the cuss word again, paranormal unity, but I think I understand where people are coming from, is they're trying to coalesce the masses. They're trying to get everybody together to work together to a common goal. And I respect that. I'm okay with that premise. It's just where I diverge a little bit is you have to have something to rally around. You have to have standards first. And I've seen, look, you've got people out there that are buying equipment and going out and investigating, and they don't have the slightest clue of how to use the equipment they're using, and yet they're producing, quote-unquote, evidence of the paranormal, not even realizing that what they're actually producing is very natural and explainable. See, as a skeptic, what I feel I have to do is to try to debunk as much as I can, and that way, if I'm left with no answers, if I can't debunk something, then heck, maybe I'm left with evidence. And that's really what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to prove anybody wrong. I'm not trying to destroy the paranormal community. I hope it exists. I hope there is life after death. I hope we are being visited by aliens, whatever. But I need proof of it. And see, that's where I'm coming from, is I want to filter out all the garbage. I want to get to real proof and not After Effects tricks that somebody does on their computer at home. That doesn't forward the field along. We're trying to do something different. So,
and as I always tell people will tell me all the time I did a good show. I'm like, yeah, it was all right. And people are like, you're too hard on yourself. Well, here's the bottom line. I'd rather be overly hard on myself and whatever I put out there, my product or my evidence as it is. And that way when somebody else beats it up, I've already beat it up. I've already had that conversation with myself. So there's always room for an improvement or better review or any number of things. It's important to have won the war within yourself, so when you do have whatever it is, you're confident in it, that you're not going, ooh, look, that orb looks like dust, and everybody jumps on you and you delete it and delete your account and start a new one because you had a whole bunch of haters. Oh, wait.
Right, and that's what professionals do. They're self-critical, and they look at their craft and trade no matter what it is, and they're constantly trying to improve it and make it better. So you're doing what you should be doing. I agree with you.
Yes. So it's got to have a process, and you've got to. I tell people this. They send me one picture. You can't just send me one picture. One freeze frame of a second of time somewhere I've never been, somewhere I don't know anything about, doesn't do it. You can keep sending them, and I'll keep replying with the same message. I wasn't there. I don't know. I used to have a form letter, but since my laptop crashed, I don't have it anymore. I probably should retype it, but I like I said, you like the passion, I like the passion, but boy, I just need, sometimes, I get tired of seeing pictures from outside at the dark, and there's this myth, and it's like, well, was anybody smoking? Was it cold outside? You just run down this list of things, and you're like, if you would have sent me that in the first place, because by now, these are questions people are going to ask. But,
Right, yeah, like one thing I would encourage people to do, if you're out investigating the paranormal, is try to remove your emotion from what you're doing. Try to look at it critically and with a scientific mind and think about what it could be or couldn't be, and try to eliminate all other possibilities, because that's going to add that much more credibility to whatever evidence you may capture, right? So, like, as an example, I see a lot of photographs and video of orbs, and that's one of my pet peeves. It just drives me absolutely bonkers when I see video evidence of orbs, and it's clear that it's a dust particle or a bug with infrared reflection coming off of it, and it's very obvious to me that that's what it is. But yet the person who filmed it is convinced that it's an entity because that's what they want to believe. But that doesn't forward the paranormal. An orb is a collection of energy, and it should emit its own light and reflections off of surfaces. And I have never yet seen a true orb captured where it's a true ball of energy emitting its own light, reflecting off of surfaces that has a three-dimensional shape to it. It's always a two-dimensional reflection, or it's some sort of really quick movement through the camera frame that you can't tell what it is. And so, these things are interesting and they're great to look at, but I don't think it really forwards the field. I don't think it gets us any closer to proof. And so that's just one example I talk about when I look at other people's evidence. And so what we're trying to do on our show is really break, if you think of Mythbusters and Ghost Hunters combining in a show, that'll kind of give you the sense of kind of the direction we're trying to go. Bay and I are really going to break down the science and technology behind the equipment, behind the environmental factors, behind all these things. And we're going to run experiments, and we're going to try to use new technology, and we're going to try to do a lot of things and bring in other minds. Every episode, I think we're going to have a guest of some sort on our show, somebody from the outside coming in and working with us to try to build this brain trust and get to something. And it's
I know.
Very hard to...
Stealing guests, having a guest show, I know, stealing my idea, I know.
Well, but it's important, we don't know everything. We'll never know everything. And the more people we infuse into the show and the more ideas that we bring in, the better we are. It's not just about the four of us on the show. It's about the whole community. It's about all of us trying to get to an answer, if you will.
And I'll tell you from my personal experience, it's nice to have different resources that you can reach out to via email or Facebook or Twitter, wherever you can get a message to them and say, hey, I have this question, and know that they're a knowledgeable person, and like you, if I had a video question, I could send it to you, or whatever the case may be. So it is good to have a big network of people, even as just a private local group. You can find contacts out there. There are a number of people that are willing to talk. I mean, in this field, it seems that anybody, I have never found anybody who hasn't been willing to come on and do an interview.
Yeah, and I mean, if people have questions, of me, from a technical perspective, I mean, I know enough about audio and video technology to be really dangerous, but I hesitate to even call myself an expert in anything, because when you use the term expert, it sounds like you know everything there is to know, and I just humble myself, I don't know everything, and I'll never know everything. I'm always learning and growing, so... but I'm very knowledgeable, and if you have questions of me, like how, the best way to use an IR camera, or what some of the problems are, what some of the things, are out there environmentally that can give me false positives, I'll be happy to, share my thoughts with anybody, to forward the field along. But, not that anybody cares what I have to say.
No, I think...
But,
I think you have to grab pieces from different corners, different people, and start putting your own puzzle together.
Well, I mean, what was one of the first things I did with you, Jim? You've been a mentor, really, to me for quite a while now. I reached out to you. I reach out to people in the paranormal community, or people who know obviously more than I do. I want to learn from you. And you've been gracious and kind and to me, and reaching back out and sharing information with me on a number of different topics. And I really appreciate everything you've done for me and our team, and what you continue to do for the community, and reach out, and help.
And then checks in the mail. Jeez, Kevin, just shut up. Now, I think it's important to be an open book, and that's what I try to be. So, okay, I'll just leave it at that. And you're very gracious with your time too when I have questions for you. So, but I have to do this because I just have to.
Oh Lord, here it comes.
I have to talk about your business partner Bang, and I want to talk about the element that he brings to the show. I know some of the feedback that he was. How do I say this? Too harsh. I was trying to find the right phrasing, but too harsh is the best I can do. For some hardcore, for people on the other side, the everything's paranormal people, compared to him being the everything isn't paranormal side. So can you talk to me a little bit about how that's going to benefit you in the long run?
Yeah, so there's really honestly no way to tell from the first episode what his personality is really like, and unfortunately I think there's a lot of, we're going to correct that in episode 2. We're going to do a lot more character development where you get to learn about each person and where they're coming from, so a lot of this is going to be rectified. But to those who don't know my business partner Bing, who is the other skeptic on the show, he is the absolute most amazing, cool person on the planet. Give you the shirt off his back. If he's your friend, he's the best friend you'll ever have in your whole life. I'm honored and blessed to know him. He really, really does believe that ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, all this stuff is possible. He really does. His perspective is this. He believes that most 95% of everything that's out there can be explained by natural causes. What he's trying to do is get to the point where we're left with proof. And if he knows better than anybody what the scientific community is going to do to our evidence. They're going to pick it apart, they're going to blow it up, and they're going to look for any little thing that they can to disprove potential evidence of paranormal activity. So his frame of mind is, if I can explain it, they're going to be able to explain it. If I can't explain it, maybe we're left with real evidence. He absolutely respects the paranormal community. He's not there to try to make anybody look foolish. He's not there to try to disprove this as being a real phenomenon. He's after a quest for real evidence. And he is far more advanced in audio and video technology than I am. And he knows things that, on an engineer level that I don't even fully grasp. And so that's where he's coming from. So if you watch the first episode, it's really hard for you to wrap your arms around what he's saying if you don't understand the scientific principles behind what he's saying. In other words, there was a big moment in our first show where we were debating an EVP that we caught, well, a potential EVP that we caught. And he came up with a theory that the reason we caught this EVP was from an external contamination from outside the building, and that the reason we picked it up was through some sort of a resonant transference of audio energy into the recorder. Now, to most of the population, they're not going to be able to wrap their head around that scientific principle. But he is right. That absolutely could have happened. Not that it did, but it could. So he took a lot of flack from the first episode because he came across as a very hardcore skeptic who doesn't believe this stuff and will go out of his way to try to disprove it, even if to most people it doesn't make sense. But actually, it couldn't be farther from the truth. He's really not like that. He's just trying to eliminate any other natural possibility before we jump to the conclusion of the paranormal.
And this is at Blip TV / Paranormal Tech TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they butchered your website because I had to have it right in front of me.
It's blip.tv / Paranormal Tech.
And I want to encourage people to watch it. Now, see, this is where I'm at. I'm more towards where you were at towards the end of that show. It's possible, but Well, I don't want to encourage people to watch it and make their own mind up about what was going on. I guess I'm going to kind of leave we've talked about it.
I mean, it's fine if we go over it. Look, it's been out there for over a month, and I think kind of breaking it down will maybe encourage some people who haven't seen it to actually go watch it and then get our perspective ahead of time and go, hey. But see, I'm a more moderate skeptic. I will there was a moment in the show where there was a noise that happened that we debunked, without giving a spoiler alert to those who haven't seen it. But we debunked it. So, and I was comfortable saying, yeah, that's not paranormal, that's natural. But on the EVP, I had to be on the fence on that one legitimately because although Bing had a good point, boy, the voice and what it said really kind of stumped me. So I had to be kind of on the fence and go, hey, maybe we caught something paranormal here. I can't say for sure. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, I it's just one. I mean, I guess I'm going from the other side with the team that was fairly convinced the place was not even active but haunted, which kind of,
right.
I think that word gets thrown around like internet. You know, it's like everywhere. But people don't understand. At least in my mind, I have never wanted to use that word, never have used that word in relationship to a place. The closest place in my mind to actually being haunted, with air quotes around it there, is Gettysburg. So but that's a whole town, and that's, you know, one investigation at one place, I mean, I guess they were there before, but still doesn't make it haunted to me. So.
Yeah, I did not come away thinking that the place was haunted, but I thought there was enough that happened that it piqued my curiosity, and I had a question mark. But I do not believe, you know, it was strong enough to say it was haunted. That's my personal opinion.
And you'd prefer to go back and try it again. I guess that's where we're both probably at with that whole thing.
Correct.
My guest tonight is Kevin Harold. I had to look at your last name for Paranormal Tech TV. That's horrible, but at least I admitted it. The Malliard Report here, streaming across the world multiple times. See, it's on the internet. See, that's pretty cool. No, so something else we often talk about is marketing, which I know this isn't necessarily your forte. It's probably something you don't necessarily want to talk about. But you've been on Twitter for a while now, and you've seen enough teams' websites to help me out with this conversation. People need to realize that it's not Halloween they're trying to market, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, God bless them. You know, everybody's got their own style, and I hate to be critical of any of that. I mean,
go ahead, be critical. It's okay.
Well, no, I mean, to me, I personally, this is just a personal thing with me. Now, I don't speak for any of our team. I don't speak for our show on this particular issue. This is my own personal opinion. But I just think that I would like to see teams try to be more scientific and technical in their approaches and just take it that way, as far as, your imagery or what you put out there. I mean, that's an individual style, so it's really hard for me to say. But I would just hope that each team would take a real hard look at the science and technology behind it and try to employ that more in what they do, and try to become experts or try to educate yourself and become experts in the science and technology more. That would be my only point.
Yeah, and you can't. I guess here's my conflict. You said science and technology and becoming more knowledgeable, more versed, even on a basic level. I always encourage baby steps. We just got to at least start somewhere and then build forward. I don't expect everybody to be bio or physicists or physics majors or anything tomorrow. I know I'm in this process of developing and learning every day. I want to learn something new about something as it pertains to the field. But you've got to remember, if you're going to say you're a scientifically based, that's your MO, your objective, your mission statement, and then I log onto your site and there's a cheesy flying ghost across. Those two things don't jive, though.
Let me take it one step further. and this is really where I kind of get emotional about this.
Good.
So you're a team, right? You've got this paranormal team. I don't care where you're from. And you have a client call you up, and you're going to go to somebody's house and investigate because they're having something happen and their family's terrified. You owe it to that family to be professional. You owe it to them to come in and know what the heck you're talking about and what you're doing. Because God forbid you come away from that claiming that the place is haunted and tell the family that that place is haunted, further exacerbating their fears, when in fact it's not haunted at all. There's something natural occurring and you didn't find it. You know, that's where I get emotional about this, is I grew up in a house that was haunted. I know what it feels like as a child to be terrified by the bumps in the night. And they're reaching out to people to help them. You owe it to them to be professional. You owe it to them to know what you're talking about and to exhaust all efforts to figure out what is happening in their life. You know, and so you have a real-world impact on people's lives when you go out and do this. And so to me, that's one thing that kind of touches me personally is, you know, if I go to somebody's house to help them, I'm going to go the extra mile to make sure I know what I'm doing to give them the best information possible.
Yes.
So there's my rant.
That's fine. I like this rant because I'm going to piggyback another rant. Not every time a person calls you, you should drop what you're doing and run and investigate that particular second. I know that sounds unbelievable, but you know what? Do your homework. Go do a home visit interview first. Be sure of what you're getting your team into, because some of these people, it is not paranormal. It is a mental condition. I'll say it. I'll put the elephant in the room again. You need to be aware, because some of you're going to end up getting sued. It's gonna happen again, or it's gonna happen. Or worst case, like that team down in Louisiana burnt the place down.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, this came out a couple days ago. Talk about having a good time. I guess the sheriff's department reported that they were smoking illegal substance there. I cleaned out.
Lord.
And then investigated, and then next thing they know, the place no longer exists. Managed to make it through Hurricane Katrina, but a bunch of ghost hunters knocked it down to the ground.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that, but that's not good.
So like I've said, just got to be smart and have a procedure and a standard and just simple things will take you to the next level. You know, somebody probably out there right now is going, well, who the heck are you to tell us about standards? You're not even a paranormal expert. Yeah, and that's true. I'm not. But where I'm coming from is you need to have standards. You know, if you're a doctor, you have standards. A lawyer, a policeman, a firefighter, you know, whatever, an anchor on your local news station. Everybody has standards, so to speak. And so the paranormal community, I just think, really needs to have some standards. And understand what they're dealing with. And I'm not just talking about on a parapsychology level or those types of things, but, you know, you're going out with all these pieces of equipment. Just ask yourself this question in the mirror. Do I really know how to use this piece of equipment? Do I really understand the science and technology behind how this piece of equipment works? Do I understand all the environmental factors that could contaminate my evidence? Do I know those things? And if your answer is yes, then God bless you. Great. If your answer is no, then do some homework. Find out what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm learning about the paranormal community. I'm learning about all these things, and I'm educating myself so I can be that much better. I'm doing that. I'm taking those steps. Everybody should do that. And as you know, I've had a number of people on the show, and people that I would consider closer to being an expert than either one of us. And to a man, have told me they're not an expert. They just have a knowledge about audio engineering, whatever it may be. So I think the expert term gets thrown around by people who are in that category of people that you would refer to as wannabes. Just saying. I'll own that. You don't have to address that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't say the word wannabe. Just so we're clear out there, hey, in the chat room, you got to back me up on this one. I did not use the term wannabe.
I did. That's at Malliard. M-A-L-L.
Did I miss anything good in the chat room, by the way?
Oh, you've missed a ton, but I'm sure they'll catch you up on Twitter later.
Lord.
So,
oh, Lord.
Well, I have 10 total minutes left. As you know, I've got my final thought coming as well. But I want to give you a chance because if you don't remember, I'll help you out. I know you've got some other stuff coming up as in the realm of interviews and stuff. So do you remember what you've got booked out?
I do. And unfortunately, I'm not going to say here tonight, and I'll tell you why, because those certain individuals have not done their final confirmations with me.
Well, I have done one of the confirmations with you because he is in the chat tonight. Wes Forsythe of I can't remember the name of his shows, but it airs Sunday at 9 p.m. He told me he's looking forward to interviewing you. So.
Oh yes, beautiful.
At liveparanormal.com. I'm sorry, Wes, I don't remember the name of the show, even though I've been on it several times.
Looking forward to that.
One of those things. So.
Yeah, he hit me up on Twitter about a month ago or so, and I was looking forward to that. So I'm glad to hear that. Wes, get a hold of me on Twitter, buddy. Can't wait to talk to you.
Yeah. So I know that one's done for sure because he's here tonight listening to it.
Well, of course, after tonight's interview, he might go, I don't want him on my show now.
No, Wes is a stand-up guy, and I enjoy. Like I said, I've been on his shows, so that tells you all you need to know.
Bam.
Oh, Paranormal Filler, duh. Such a hard name too.
I know what you're going to be talking about in your rant at the end, and I couldn't be more excited for you.
Well, thank you, and I'm excited too. It's humbling, exciting. Really, I'll get there. I'm going to let you hang out with me for it, and then I'll talk to you a little bit off here too as I wrap. You know how I wrap things up afterwards. So.
Oh yeah.
But.
Hey, can I just say one thing real quick? I just wanted to say this.
Go ahead.
In about a month and a half, we've gotten over 700 followers on Twitter, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I have met the most amazing, cool people on Twitter. Thank you so much for opening your arms and welcoming us into your community. You've been fantastic. We're humbled. We're honored. Thank you so much. Joey and Celeste and you and Doc and everybody out there who's been supporting us over the last month and a half. It really means a lot to us, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody in the Twitterverse who's been helping us. Thank you. And
I hope that at Paranormal Tech TV on Twitter gets over 800 here shortly. I think it will. I know it was close when I looked earlier. So if it doesn't, it will. Don't worry. Kevin's gotten better about sweating the milestone numbers there for a while. I think it was 400. I had to pry him off the roof of his house. He was sitting up there. Well, I can't wait anymore.
You're my social media Yoda. You're my guru on social media because I don't do social media, so I'm pretty new to it, and you've been helping me out, so thank you.
I try. It's just kind of a process, and we're getting there. And it's an important process, though. That's how this show has grown via social media through the years. So I'm grateful for all my followers and all my fans and all that stuff. Of course, I'm going to get there again. I'll probably repeat that in about 5 minutes because that was part of my other thing, but that's okay.
Yeah, and this week is Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and happy holidays to everybody, and are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was just going to say, hug all your family members and your loved ones, and enjoy your time with your family and loved ones. And I hope everybody has a great holiday.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts. It's that time of year where things become in perspective if they haven't been all year for people. So enjoy the moments that you can because who knows if that moment will be there to have again.
Well, that's the thing, just be grateful you're alive and healthy and happy, and hug your loved ones and your kids and your sisters and your brothers, and just enjoy life, and
right.
Just be grateful for everything you got. Okay,
so shifting gears because I don't want to run out of time on this because I'm still going to run out of time on this, but I want to thank everybody that has supported the show over the last 2.5 years. It's really been a wild ride. And I know this is starting to sound like a farewell, but it's not a farewell. It's an introduction to a new audience. And I first want to thank my station owners at ParaManiaRadio.com and Raz Radio Live. They've been really good with this, understanding this announcement I'm about to make. It really impacts their brands and impacts my brand, but it is something I needed to do to grow the show exponentially. And I want to welcome the new listeners of Dark Matter, right? Am I saying that right? I don't have it wrote down in front of me, but Art Bell's radio stream. Art Bell, I've been going back and forth with him over the last, his website design guy, over the last few hours, few days, hammering it out. The show will air Wednesdays there at 9 p.m. Eastern. Great opportunity. I'm excited about it. This is something that I never expected. I due to the Raz Radio Live and ParaManiaRadio.com has really helped me build my brand out to a substantial level. My site's italkparanormal.com. I've built something for myself as well. But the important thing is, May 2011, I'd never imagined that I'd be simulcast around the world multiple times, have as many podcast downloads as I do. So it's just unbelievable the support that I've gotten to the live shows, to the podcast, to the Twitter, to the Facebook, to the newsletter. The words of encouragement have kept the show going, because I know for a fact in June of 2011 I did a show where nobody listened. And I very much wanted to walk away that night, but I didn't. I was very humbled that night, and I'm very humbled again tonight to know that a radio legend has agreed that my show is worth airing on his stream. I don't take that lightly. And so you can catch it there, and then once it airs there, of course, the podcast will go out as it used to. But that's the important thing. So the show will air at artbell.com on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. It is an opportunity that I am just baffled about. I still am very humbled, and I want to thank everybody again. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter to get all I do a book of the week, an insider post to tell you about what's going on with the show, a preview and a review of the show, please come over to italkparanormal.com and sign up for it. Again, go visit ParaManiaRadio.com and Raz Radio Live. They've been great through this process with me as well. But with that being said, I'm out of time for tonight, and I'll see you next week.
Well, before we flip that on-air sign to the off position, a quick reminder. For all things about the report, previews, and reviews, go to italkparanormal.com.
This is Thomas P. Fusco, author of the book Behind the Cosmic Veil, A New Vision of Reality, and originator of the theory of supergeometry. And you are listening to the Malliard Report.
Hi, this is Dave Roundtree, author of Paranormal Technology, Understanding the Science of Ghost Hunting, lecturer, author, and paranormal researcher. And when you're not busy in the field, do what I do and listen to the Malliard Report with Jim Malliard.
If you're looking for a radio show where all things paranormal go, well, tune in and be in the know with Jim Malliard as your host. Come and see what lies beneath paranormal activity. The Malliard Report. Yeah, the Malliard Report. Tune in and listen every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, right online. It's the Malliard Report. Yeah, the Malliard Report.
Get connected with Take Two Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio. For email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit take2radio.com.